We're going to talk playing time, all of the different things that go into it, the decision making. There's no right way to do it. And I know a lot of people have a lot of different philosophies. My philosophy has changed over time as well. It changes year to year, team by team. And one of the things that prompted this is, watching some of the Olympics, USA basketball, man, the highest paid player in the NBA didn't get into the last game. And imagine that. Imagine being, the MVP of the finals. I don't know if he got MVP of the league or not, but Tatum was, I mean, he was amazing, through the stretch run, and he didn't even get in the game. Somebody came off the bench. Durant came off, played really well. Even his teammate, who's not the same caliber of player, a great piece, he played a little bit of the game more so than the highest paid player in the NBA. That's a big time decision. And I don't think people understand what goes into all of these decisions when it comes to playing time. I think there's a lot of philosophies, and I've got an idea I want to share on like the different types of philosophies people have and why they have that philosophy. Here's the reality of it. We all deal with it, and the cutoff comes somewhere, right? Like if the cutoff comes at 7 players, 8, 9, 10 are going to be frustrated. If it comes at 9, 10, 11, 12 are going to be frustrated. And we all manage it. They have an abundance of talent. That's a good problem to have, but there's still a problem in trying to manage all those minutes. Most of us don't face that problem with an abundance of talent. How do we manage that and the egos? But it doesn't matter where you're at. Like I said, there's a cutoff. And I generally see coaches have a couple different philosophies here, Sam. And you tell me if you see it different. I think there's some coaches that go with the philosophy, it just ends at a certain point where they're just not good enough. Number 8's good enough, but number 9's not good enough, right? And it just ends at that point. I think there's some coaches that go in with an ideal rotation where it's like, hey, our top 5 or 6 guards are going to play and our top 3 posts are going to play. We're going to play 9 people. Whoever fits into those. That's who we're going to play. I think there's other coaches that look at it and they try and stretch. They want team engagement. They want everybody to be involved, and they try and play, even if it's just a small role, they try and find 10 and 11 a small role, and they stretch it because they want everybody to be ready, to be engaged. Because I've been through this before. We've had seasons where we played 7 or 8 guys, and 9 through 12, their engagement is hard to keep it for the entire year. It's hard for them to show up to practice every day. We can talk about mental toughness and all that, but look, everybody wants to play. But I think most coaches have some sort of philosophy. Get everybody involved, cut it off where the value of how much they can contribute on the court ends, or a certain set rotation of 8 to 10 players. And I don't know if that's always right, but I think most coaches fall into one of those philosophies. Look, I know as a player or competitor, I wanted to play and to just bring great joy and be the greatest teammate ever and wave a towel. Like that wasn't my goal. And that's been a harsh reality to me for the last few years is, there's players on our team that you've worked your butt off. You've lifted, you've run, you've gone through all the individual workouts, you've gotten up the 1,000 shots a week, or you've done whatever else. You don't ever get into the game. There is a harsh, tough reality to that. From a coach, I think we say like, well, man, they're so selfish if they're not a great teammate. Like we get on, but I think sometimes we forget to remember the other side is like, they didn't play basketball to not play basketball. And that's hard on a player.
I think maybe this is what you're saying. Acknowledge where they're at. Say, hey, TJ, right now you're like our 4th guy off the bench, and I know you're a competitor, and I know you want to be out there, and I just want you to know that I know that. And I know it's hard that when you want to be in the game for you to be standing up and waving a towel and cheering on a teammate. I know that's hard. So first off, I want you to know I see you and I feel you and I empathize with you. Secondly, can you commit to bringing some energy to the guys on the floor when you're not out there? So I think it looks and sounds a little bit like that, right?
Yeah. I think that's well articulated. I think in the past, I've always said this, like our bench ends where the value ends. And so how many players do you want on your team? Is it 9? Is it 12? Is it 15? Is it 18? And I've always said this, I don't care if there's 27 players on our bench, if all 27 can add value. Right. I mean, and I've had this conversation before with people. I mean, hey, listen, we'll bring you in as a walk on, whatever. You're going to be on the end of the bench. You are not going to play. Are you still going to want to do this? And there's some players that'll say no, and that's fine. I think you should maybe even do that in like high school cuts or whatever. Like, look, you're not going to play. Do you still want to be on the team, or it's an easier out to not, And look, a young 16-year-old, 21-year-old, they struggle to make that decision because they want to be on the team. they want the shoes, they want they want to do that, and they think they're going to bet on themselves and get there. And I've had that conversation with a lot of players beforehand. You are not going to play. And then I have to revisit it 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 10 weeks in, and be like, listen, remember what we committed to. Now, it is very helpful, to your point, to have that communication beforehand, to let the people know where they stand. And, I'm not trying to put them in a box and say, you can never get out of this, you can never play. But I also don't want to be unrealistic about it, because you come in there and you have that conversation for 2 or 3 years. Oh, you're close. Oh, you're doing better. Oh, you're going to get, that's tough. That's not truthful to a player. There's some players that I'd like, listen, unless things change drastically, I don't ever see you playing. Like, that sounds like I'm not giving a player hope, but you have to ask yourself, do you want to lead them on? Or, I face this in my own dating life, and, as a young person, like, you're trying to, you're trying to decide, like, hey, I don't know if I want to be with this person long-term or whatever, but what's the best thing you can do for a person? I think it's be honest with them.
I think players appreciate the truth with some love and some grace in there. If it's all truth with no trust, or all truth with being a jerk, like, that's not going to land well either.
I think the love part of it, tell me if I'm wrong, the love part of it can be a vision for what they can be working on to get to opportunity to contribute to the team. I don't think anybody just wants to be a bench player for life. I think that there has to be some sort of plan. I can't promise you it's going to come true, but I think part of the love is not just putting them and burying them in a corner and saying, you'll never play, you'll never whatever, but that might be the true statement for some of the players. But for everybody else, I think knowing you care, knowing you love is still continuing to work on their game and giving them a vision for the future.
It's the realist versus the optimist conversation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that looks like, hey, Joe, hey, Julie, here's the real part of it. I see your role this year going into the season as a 4-minute a game player. That's the reality of it. I've got 3 starters that are going to play, 35 minutes a game. And I've got another starter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're telling them that's the real. Now, here's the optimistic part. Maybe you come in and you have a great preseason. And then in games, you're flying around, you're getting offensive boards, you're playing great defense, and you're giving us reasons that we've got to play you. That could be the best case scenario. What I see right now, based on what I've seen before, this is the role I see you in for this year, but maybe it can expand. I think that I would appreciate that as a player, and they do get to make the choice, because if they make a choice where they're going to be in their feelings and be a bit of a cancer, well, then they put a choice back in the coach's lap where you may have to remove. I know I'm going real extreme here, but you got to protect your culture.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, because, Sam, we've had a couple of players transfer, at the end of every year because of their playing time. And to be honest with you, a lot of them don't catch on with another team, and that's a harsh reality. They didn't like their situation and they thought they should be playing somewhere else. And, they had to learn that the really hard way. And I hate that for players. I hate that, but I also get it. You want to play. And I think that's something we have to keep in mind as coaches, is that they did get into basketball to play it. And that's a conversation that I also think you can't just have once. Like, I had that conversation at the beginning of the year. This is where it really, their role identification conversations. This is your role on this team. And everybody's got to accept their role, buy into their role, and try and dominate their role, whether they like it or not. But you do have to continue to have those conversations. Like, listen, I told you where your role is. This is where you're at. How are you doing with it? I think many times we can just forget about and stop having those conversations. And eventually that player is just going to continue to get in their feelings, and they're going to see things different than we see them. Well, in practice today, did you see me cross over so-and-so and get that? I can do this. Did you see? Because they're going to have moments of success, and those moments of success in practice are going to lead them to believe they should be playing more minutes. And so that conversation is going to happen multiple times throughout the course of the year.
I know you're not a Georgia fan necessarily, but, Kirby Smart, I love what he shared a couple years ago. And he said there's 3 costs to leadership, which I think ties into some of our conversation. He says, number 1, you have to make hard decisions that'll negatively affect people you care about. Think about that. You as a coach are going to make hard decisions that negatively affect people you care about. Number 2, you'll be disliked despite your best attempt to do the best for the most. People aren't going to like you. And then the third is you're going to be misunderstood and not always have the opportunity to defend yourself. And I think that's pretty well said, those 3 things, and it ties into our conversation. Man, you're trying to make the best decisions for the team. And when you do, you're going to hurt some people.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
Doesn't mean you can't empathize a little bit. with maybe they've worked their butt off to try and get there and they're not actually playing. You still have to live with the fact that you're the person that's making them upset and holding them from what they want to because you had to make a decision that's best for the team. Well, let's talk about a few practical things here, Sam. Like, all right, who should play? How much of a roster should you, have in the lineup? Is it 8 players, 10 players, whatever? Let's just talk about some practical things because I think there's some differing philosophies here.
For the answer to your question regarding number of players, a lot like it's age and stage and then talent within the team would drive the decision for me. So going back to that scenario I gave from travel ball, I had 11 guys and I had to play. I played all 11 because we're in a setting where I'm trying to get them developed. I'm trying to get them exposure with college coaches. And that's where we changed our style of play. We were playing more half court and we changed right there in the moment. And we started playing full court pressure because I wanted more possessions. I wanted to play faster on defense, not just offense. And I wanted them to get more possessions, more shots on goal. So that drove that decision. If I'm at an age where we're developing players, I'm going to play a longer bench. If I'm a college coach like you, like I'm playing to win. I do want to keep people engaged. Now, you and I talked about you may play a system where you can get up and down, like a Nova Southeastern, where Crutchfield, he's playing 10 guys, and you get people are more happy.
I think like what happens in there based on your style of play is you get into a rhythm. And players, like that's why it's hard to come off the bench. Like I have some players that come off the bench and they come in for short spurts and, they do okay, but then they never really get in the flow of the game. Well, that same guy, when the player in front of them goes down, they go from 8 minutes to 24 minutes and they look a lot better because they get in the flow of the game. It's hard to come off the bench and play 2 minutes here and 3 minutes there. It's easy on a paper and pen to look and be like, oh yeah, 5 in, 5 out. These guys are so talented. But there's another reality to that we all know what it's like to be in the flow of the game. And that's a big decision on how you're going to substitute. I've done that before too, where I've had like my top 8 and then I had 2 seniors that have been great program guys, do whatever. And I found minutes for them. It was hard for them to go in 3 minutes in the first half, 3 minutes in the second half. And sometimes I thought I was setting them up for failure because they had to go in there and just try and do everything they could in 3 minutes. And, some of them would shoot bad shots because they knew that was their only moment. Some of them would go in there and they'd be so scared to make a mistake because they knew they had to hold the rope for 3 minutes and they're playing out of fear.
I agree. No, yeah. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it is tough. This goes back to the thread we're talking about. What's the thread in all this? Communication, leadership. And so if, to use your example, those 2 seniors, you're 4 games in and they've played these like 2 or 3 minute stretches. Well, you're having conversations with them like, hey, how are you feeling when you're going in the game? Like what's challenging for you? Where do you feel like you're excelling? What do you talk to me? Then once you talk to them, have just a human to human conversation, not a coach down player. It's like, okay, I get a feel. Then you can lead them.
And I get it. They all have to adjust. They have to figure it out. But I think it affects the way they play at every level. I think it affects the greatest in the world, how they actually play. Like we've seen this even on a smaller scale where it's like Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. Like how many of these superstar things haven't worked out?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that one didn't. Eventually they won a championship.
Well, Clippers had Harden and George and Westbrook and Kawhi and they can't even make the conference finals, right?
I think the teams that have actually figured out how to get a couple of great players and great role players around them have been the most successful in the league versus the Phoenix Suns this year. 3 max guys, Beal, Durant, Booker, you know what I mean? Like didn't work out, but there's more stories that didn't work out than did. And so I think the thing getting missed in all of this is the chemistry part of it. And I think that 7 or 8 players can have great chemistry. Can 11 players have great chemistry too? Yeah. Based on your system, based on your style, it's a hard thing to figure out what is the right number of players. No matter what you decide, you're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to be able to do that. So we know that the most important thing is over the course of the year, you have to fight for your culture and how these players are going to show up, even when they don't get what they want. And one of the things that I always like to say to my players, and I think this is a good framing for coaches, but I always say, and I say this probably 10 times a year in the huddle, I'll say, listen, guys, if anybody has got a problem with their playing time, there's an issue, you're upset, you're mad. Number 1, I have an open door. Come talk to me. Number 2, You can only be angry and frustrated with one person, and that's me. This cannot bleed over to the team and your teammates. This is my decision. Nobody else had anything to do with it. I own it. I made it. And if you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be upset, make sure it's with me. Now, how you handle that frustration and anger or whatever, come talk to me, whatever, like I'm available, but we have to handle it. We have to put that frustration and anger somewhere that's not going to affect the team. But I do think, you want to take that pressure off of any of the other players or teammates. Like I'll say, listen, if somebody's complaining to you about playing time or whatever, that's not your responsibility or your job to agree or disagree with them. Tell them to come to me, because I'm really the one making that decision. Because I don't like those side conversations of players being like, well, so-and-so did this, so-and-so that, I think I should be playing. Because it puts a teammate in a tough situation too, where they have a friend that's like, why am I not playing? What's coach thinking? Did it right? The friend's going to say, I know you should be playing, and so you really need to get all those, as many as possible, directed to you and relieve even the players of that pressure. I'll end with this final thought right here. What is your guiding principle in all of this? You have to do what is best for your team. Your job is to make your team as successful as they can be. And that answer is not always the same. One year it could be play. Find a role for number 9 and 10 and 11, because your team's going to have better chemistry with everybody playing. And the next year it might be 9, 10, and 11 are close, but I'm not going to play them. And I think that's almost a year-to-year, team-to-team type situation. Maybe you build your philosophy. I mean, I'm looking at this year. Like, we lost an NBA player, right? And do we change our style of play? Because there's not that much difference in number 7 and number 12 on our roster. Or do I just say whoever wins the 7th spot is it? Or do I expand how we play so that 9, 10, 11 play some? Because they're really not that much of a gap in talent between 11 and 7. These are questions that coaches are battling with all of the time. And what you're trying to search for is what is the absolute best thing for our team. And that's not always the same answer every year, in my opinion.
Everybody on that team, everybody on your roster has value. And it's the job of a coach to make sure they feel valued. The leading scorer in the country, KJ, for you, TJ, he gets a lot of love. Like, do you need to still give him some individual love and celebration? Sure. But he's getting that. Like, what about the 12th player who's practicing their butt off every single day, who's waving the towel on the bench, but is pissed off also, maybe not pissed off, but maybe frustrated they're not getting any run, getting any minutes. We need to show them value. We need to celebrate them in front of the team. They need to know they carry as much value as player 1, 2, or 3. And I think they often get forgot about and they don't get celebrated enough, because if they have a bad attitude, that's going to affect our team winning games. It's going to affect the culture. And so find the value in every player, speak truth and love, and be consistent in your communication.
These are the 4 reasons that I think, in my opinion, why you're not playing. All right, here you go. Number 1, you're not talented or skilled enough to play with the level of competition that you're trying to play at. All right, so you want to make varsity, but you're not more skilled or talented than the people that's playing. You may think that you are, but you're not. All right. Number 2, you don't fit into the coach's scheme, or you don't fit into the coach's style of play. All right. This comes in practice. All right. We're running plays. You don't know the plays. All right. We're running, defense. You're not in the right positions. Things like that. That coaches lose trust for you when you don't do that in practice. It don't matter how talented you are. How do you fit with the team? All right. How do you fit with the team? That's what matters. Okay. Number 3, you have bad character or you have bad grades. You can't walk around as a basketball player and have bad character or have bad grades and decide, and think that you're going to go play the next level. It's not going to happen. Good character wins games. Bad character loses you games. All right. And then the 4th thing is, your work ethic. Okay. If you don't have a great work ethic and somebody is more talented than you and they working just as much as you, I'm going to play the more talented person. It's not equal opportunity. I have said this since I've been on social media. It is not equal opportunity play. You have to go earn the time that you want. But these are 4 things that I think that you probably need to look in the mirror and re-examine. Do you do those 4 things? All right. And if it's you, fix it so that you can get onto the floor. All right.
What am I doing that is robbing me of playing time? Okay, that's a powerful question. And it actually is a mental framework from Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's investment partner at Berkshire Hathaway. So Charlie Munger calls this reverse thinking. And the reason reverse thinking is so powerful is because evolutionarily, our brains are wired to hunt out threats in the environment. This is what kept us alive. And so we're much better actually at spotting problems than we are at finding solutions to those problems. And so taking advantage of this, you could state that question. What am I doing that's robbing me of playing time? Or you could use whatever words you want, but state it in such a way that you find the issues, the problems that are keeping you from getting the playing time that you want. This we could say, what could I do to make sure that I stay on the bench during games? And just make a list, okay? You will find inevitably a few things that you're actually doing. So once we lay the ego down and we just look clearly at the situation, what am I doing? Or how could I make sure that my coach doesn't put me in? How could I make sure that other players get the playing time that I feel is meant for me? Well, I could continue paying less attention to defense. I wasn't paying enough attention to defense. I could continue not putting effort in on the defensive and offensive boards. Things of this nature. Really simple, but once you identify them and actually see clearly in your mind, oh, here's all of the things that I'm not doing, you can get to work actually doing them, rather than getting frustrated and thinking to yourself, why is this not happening yet? So I think that this will be a more effective approach for you. And it's actually going to solve the problem rather than making it either worse or keeping yourself frozen in that standstill state where you're still not getting playing time. You don't know why. Just look at it clearly and objectively. It can be hard to look at, but once you've looked at it, you can begin attacking the deficiencies with accuracy. This is a productive approach. Rather than getting frustrated and creating some friction actually between you and your teammates, you and your coach, just get to work making yourself the obvious first choice at your position. That's how you're going to get yourself on the floor and get the playing time and the touches and the plays called and so on and so forth.
Every high-level program is running a system. And I think sometimes we use the word system like it's boring basketball. It's not. A system is pressing 40 minutes. That's your system. Right? Space and pace, that's your system. Gaps defense is a system. Zone defense is a system, right? And I think a lot of the time we use that word and we think that it means boring basketball, and it's not, all right? A lot of the reason why kids go into programs and don't play is because they don't fit into the system, number one. Number two, they don't try to fit into the system. A basketball player that wants to play is going to figure out how to play in anybody's system. That's just true, all right? I can play in any type of system because I understand basketball and I'm going to ask the necessary questions to get on the floor. Right? So if you're an athletic kid and you're playing in a space, you're playing in a system that's really slow paced, all right, you have to figure out how to be impactful in that system, right? You have to ask the right question. You have to practice it because it may be something different than what you've done in your whole entire career. So what I'm telling you guys and advising you guys to do is try to get to your coach and ask the necessary question offensively and defensively. What we're trying to do, right? What are we trying to do so that we can win? Right? That type of stuff, once you figure it out and you know what you're doing, is going to get you on the floor. A lot of you guys don't know what the coach wants or what you're doing, so you can't play. You can't help the team because you don't know where you're supposed to be, right? You don't know the plays. You don't know the defensive schemes, all right? Figure it out.
Coaches like stuff that works. So if you break out of your offense and slow the ball down and it doesn't work, that's a problem. What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to find ways to be aggressive and attack within your system. So maybe you think your game is isolation basketball, but your coach runs a motion offense that's really moving the ball around. What you need to do is you need to shift your practice focuses to really get good off the catch and really get good off the triple threat, because that's what you need to be able to do to be the best player you can be in your system. And you see it all the time. There's NBA players that go from one role to another when they switch teams, and their ability to adapt is so important for them to find success with that new team. I always like to say, if your weaknesses at the end of last season are your weaknesses at the beginning of next season, you wasted your entire summer. And that's so true. If there's things that kept you off the floor last year that you haven't improved on and mastered this summer, then they're going to keep you off the floor next year as well. And so what you need to do is you need to master the things that are going to help you get on the court and provide value and give your team the best chance at winning that game. I think the thing that people and players mess up is They complain about not having the role that they want, but they haven't mastered the role that their coach and their team needs yet. The only right that you have to get a bigger role is by mastering the role that your coach and team needs you in first. And every one of my players' workouts change every summer based on the role that they're going to be in next season. The quote that I always like to say is master the role that you're in while working towards the role that you want. So if you want to be an isolation basketball player, but your coach is asking you to be a catch and go player, then master the catch and go while sprinkling in working on the isolation so that eventually your coach trusts you to do that as well.